Power hates one thing above all else: the moment it realizes it can't touch you anymore. Chosen one, sit with that for a moment. Imagine an enemy sharpening their knives, certain they've got you cornered, only to strike and find the blade bouncing off an invisible shield. That's the world you're living in right now. You're not standing alone in this battlefield, no matter how much they want you to believe it. Quiet hands, hidden in places higher than your enemies could ever reach, are already moving the pieces on the board in your favor. That's not a fantasy. It's a fact. History has always shown us that survival is never just about strength. It's about alliances. Behind every untouchable figure, there was always an unseen circle. Protectors who had access to rooms the enemy couldn't break into, power they couldn't bribe, and influence they couldn't challenge. Now, imagine this for a moment. Chosen one. Your name whispered in conference rooms where decisions shift the course of entire communities. Your safety placed on the agenda of people you will never meet in person. This is not about being lucky. It's about being marked by the universe itself as someone worth protecting. And here's a fact that will make your enemies choke on their bitterness. 90% of the battles in history were won before the first punch was ever thrown. Not on the battlefield, but in the back rooms, in secret conversations, in alliances that never made the headlines. That's where your story is being written right now. Before your enemies can even launch their next attack, their plans are already being dismantled in those high places. And thank you, Chosen One. Don't forget to pay this message back by simply pressing the like and subscribe, helping spread this truth to more souls. It's the responsibility of all of us to spread the light. Thank you for being part of this mission, because you're not just a listener, you're part of a force. Now, let's return to the truth at hand. Chosen One, your enemies can't stomach this reality. They thought they were fighting you alone, but they never factored in the unseen allies, individuals who carry weight in spaces your enemies can't even dream of entering. If your enemies knew who was quietly standing behind you, half of them would collapse from shock and the other half would scramble, begging for forgiveness. Because here's the brutal twist. The protection around you isn't just about safety, it's about strategy. These allies aren't wasting energy on defense alone. They're building a structure that ensures you rise while your enemies sink under their own schemes. Think about the irony here. The same people who once mocked you as irrelevant are about to choke on the sight of doors opening for you that even their wealth, charm, or connections couldn't unlock. The universe has placed powerhouses in alignment with your path. People with access to information that can't be leaked, systems that can't be bribed, and authority that can't be challenged. And while your enemies are busy gossiping in circles of jealousy, these allies are moving silently, shifting entire agendas just to keep you untouchable. This is why your enemies are restless. They can sense something bigger than you is at work, but they can't put their finger on it. To them, you look like an ordinary person. But the reality is, you've become a classified subject in an unspoken hierarchy. You're no longer just a target. They're up against forces they cannot see, cannot threaten, and cannot outmaneuver. And the bitter truth, the harder they push, the more obvious it becomes that the walls around you aren't just walls, they're fortresses. Chosen One, let me be brutally honest. What is coming next will not just shock your enemies. It will shock you too, because the scale of what's being planned in those high places is far greater than anything you imagined. You think you've seen protection? You've seen nothing yet. What's unfolding isn't simply a shield. It's a grand strategy. And when the final move is revealed, your enemies won't just be defeated. They'll be humiliated. left staring in disbelief at how powerless they really were against the allies standing behind you. That's the reality, Chosen One. Powerful allies in high places are protecting you, and what they're planning is about to shake everything. Chosen One, before we move forward, I want you to take a moment and ground yourself in this truth. Powerful allies in high places are already moving on your behalf, and what they're planning will shake you to your core. If you've ever felt like the universe has been shifting pieces behind the scenes just to keep you standing, then this message is for you. Drop a comment below with the number 777 if you know deep down you're being protected in ways your enemies will never understand. And if you feel called, bless the team behind this message with your support, whether it's a like, a share, or even a super thanks. Every gesture, no matter how small, fuels this mission to reach more chosen ones like you who need this confirmation. You are not just a viewer, you are part of a force that spreads light in a world that feeds on shadows. So stay with me until the end, because what I'm about to reveal isn't just information. It's a key to understanding the strategy unfolding around your life. And now, let's dive into it step by step. Believe me, Chosen One, if this message is meant for you, you'll feel that pull to stay until the last word. Let's begin. Number 1. When their power becomes your shield. The cruelest punishment for an enemy is watching their own weapons defend the person they wanted destroyed. Chosen One, let that sink in. Imagine the fury burning in their chest when they realize every tool, every resource, every connection they thought belonged only to them is now working in your favor. That's the gut punch they never expected, the one they'll never recover from. They wanted to hoard the keys, but the doors are opening for you anyway. They wanted to shut you out, but the very walls they built are crumbling into bridges beneath your feet. That's not an accident. That's the universe rearranging the board. Think about it. How many times did they tell themselves you'd never make it because you lacked their network, their wealth, their insider access? They laughed, they mocked, they told their circles, that one will never touch what we've got. But here's the bitter truth. Their wealth was never built for your destruction. Their systems were never designed to deny you forever. The universe has a way of flipping the script so violently that the very same doors they swore you'd never walk through are now opening without their permission. And it eats them alive. Now imagine this for a moment, Chosen One. An enemy spends years building a fortress, filling it with resources and guarding it with loyal dogs. But then, when the time comes, the gates swing open, not for them, but for you. Their soldiers bow, their treasure is rerouted, and their fortress becomes your sanctuary. That's the nightmare they can't wake up from. And here's the question that lingers in their minds. How? How did the one they counted out become the one protected by the very forces they thought they controlled? The answer is simple. Power doesn't respect ego. Influence doesn't obey arrogance. The universe never allows resources to be hoarded forever. It redistributes them where they are needed most. This is why your enemies are restless. They can't stop pacing the floor at night because deep down they know the tide is turning. They see opportunities drying up for them while doors are being built for you. They feel their grip slipping, and every time they try to tighten it, the rope burns their own hands. That's the poetic justice in this season. The harder they cling, the more obvious it becomes that their power was never truly theirs to begin with. It was borrowed, temporary, and now it's being redirected piece by piece to strengthen you. Let's be brutally honest here. What truly enrages them is not just that you are protected, but that the protection is coming from their own side, from high places they thought were locked down for themselves. It's like watching their own generals defect to fight for you, their own strategies rewritten to benefit you. And when you stand tall, unshaken by their attacks, it isn't because you fought harder, it's because you were surrounded by shields they couldn't see, shields they couldn't break, shields forged from their own resources. That's humiliation on a scale they can't stomach. You might ask yourself, why me? Why would such powerful allies shift to protect someone like me? The answer is sharper than you think, because you're not ordinary. You carry what they can't buy, can't fake, can't steal. Authenticity, integrity, strength carved from struggle. Those things attract protection the same way gravity pulls the planets. And when you carry that, chosen one, the universe aligns the pieces in ways no enemy can undo. So yes, their money might have been stacked high, their networks wide, their influence deep, but none of it was strong enough to stop the redirection. Here's a fact to drive it home. History has always shown us that empires fall not because outsiders stormed the gates, but because insiders shifted allegiance. Rome collapsed not from barbarians alone, but from betrayal within its own walls. Kings lost crowns because their armies suddenly refused to fight. And in your story, it's no different. The same insiders your enemies trusted are now moving in silence for you. The very channels they believed were theirs alone are now carrying your name, carrying your cause, carrying your protection. And the irony is so sharp, it could cut glass. They once mocked you as powerless. They told themselves, this one has nothing, this one can't touch us. But now their most prized possessions are defending you. Their influence is clearing paths for you. Their connections are sealing the cracks that could have exposed you. They're watching the very fortress they built become a fortress for you. And here's the punchline. There's nothing they can do about it. So let's answer the question burning in your mind. What happens next? Chosen one, what happens next is the unfolding of a strategy so brutal in its beauty that it will leave your enemies stunned. Because every move they make only speeds up their own downfall. Every door they try to slam shut only makes the slam echo louder when it reopens for you. They can't fight it. They can't outbid it. They can't silence it. Their resources were never meant to destroy you. They were meant to serve as the scaffolding for your rise. Picture this. A thief spends his whole life stockpiling treasure, convinced he'll live forever to enjoy it. But when the moment comes, the treasure is stripped from him and placed in the hands of someone he swore would always be empty. That's you. You are walking proof that the universe doesn't allow hoarded power to rot in one corner. It circulates, it finds balance, and right now the balance has tilted in your favor. That's why they're panicking. That's why they're lashing out, because deep down they know the shift is irreversible. So don't doubt it, chosen one. Don't question whether you're really protected by allies in high places. The proof is in the reaction of your enemies. Look at their confusion, their rage, their silence when their attacks fall flat. That's not coincidence. That's evidence. Evidence that their resources have already been reprogrammed, redirected, and repurposed to work for you. The cruelest punishment for them is realizing that the more they try to destroy you, the more their own power ends up shielding you. And here's the final twist. This isn't just about defense. This is strategy. It's not only about blocking their attacks, it's about turning their very tools into stepping stones for your rise. What they thought would crush you is now what carries you higher. What they meant for control is now fueling your freedom. And when the full picture is revealed, when they finally see just how much of their arsenal has been rerouted for you, the shock won't just break them, it will haunt them, because nothing cuts deeper than realizing they were never in control to begin with. That is the brutal reality, chosen one. Their resources were never meant for you, but now they've become your shield, and that truth will be the very thing that destroys them. Number 2. When your name unlocks doors they swore were sealed. The deadliest power is not the sword in your hand, but the whispers of your name in rooms your enemies cannot enter. Chosen one, let that pierce through you. Nothing rattles your enemies more than realizing that while they're wasting breath gossiping about you in their little corners, your name is already echoing in the high chambers they'll never be invited into. Think about it. Your very name has become a password, a key, a secret code that grants you protection and opportunity in places you've never even laid eyes on. That is the kind of influence that terrifies them, because it means you're moving without moving, winning without showing up, and being protected by voices they can't silence. Now imagine this for a moment. Picture a grand council room, walls lined with power, where the fate of thousands is decided with a single nod. You are not there physically, chosen one, but your name enters like a command. It slides across the table, and suddenly doors are opening, resources are shifting, and strategies are being rewritten, all in your favor. This is the brutal irony. You don't need to be in the room for the room to bend toward you. And that's what your enemies will never understand. They believe influence comes only from presence, from being loud, from being seen. But the truth? The most unshakable power is when your name works for you in silence. What they fear most is not your presence, but your absence that still carries weight. Chosen one, that's the truth they choke on. They can't wrap their heads around the fact that your name, not theirs, has become the key that unlocks decisions. They ask themselves late at night, how is it possible? How did their name become a password when mine is just an echo? The answer is simple. Authenticity carries resonance. You don't need to bribe or force your way in. The universe amplifies the name of the one it favors, making it travel further, strike harder, and open doors that money, status, or threats could never budge. Let's be brutally honest. They never expected your name to mean anything beyond your neighborhood, your workplace, your small circle. They thought they had the monopoly on reach. But here you are, chosen one, watching your name ripple into rooms you've never stepped into, building alliances you didn't even ask for, gathering shields around you without lifting a finger. That's the kind of divine irony that leaves them stunned, because it proves the game was never theirs to control. Now imagine this. A vault locked tight with the strongest steel, guarded by men who would die before handing over the key. And yet, when your name is spoken, the bolts click open as if they were waiting for you all along. That's the level of access you now carry. Not through force, but through the quiet authority your name holds. This is why your enemies grind their teeth. They built walls, only to discover your name was the master key all along. Your name is the one currency that never loses its value. Chosen one, remember that. They can hoard money, manipulate connections, flaunt influence, but their names rot in silence while yours spreads like wildfire. And here's what burns them the most. The very people they thought would never notice you are the ones speaking your name with respect, urgency, and commitment. The same doors your enemies bang on desperately are the ones quietly opening for you, triggered by your absence that somehow weighs more than their presence. They ask themselves, why them? Why does their name hold so much power while mine gets ignored? The answer is hidden in plain sight. Influence doesn't belong to the loudest voice in the room. It belongs to the voice that carries truth, resilience, and integrity. That's why your name travels where theirs cannot. Because your enemies' names are tainted by deceit, while yours carries the resonance of someone who has earned their place through struggle and authenticity. And the universe always favors the name that cannot be corrupted. Now imagine another metaphor, chosen one. Think of a chessboard. Your enemies thought you were just a pawn, easily sacrificed and easily replaced. But now, the players in high places are whispering your name as though you were the queen. The piece with the most power, the one that dictates the flow of the game. And the best part, you didn't even have to move yourself there. Others moved on your behalf, sliding you into position, shielding you with strategies your enemies could never predict. That's the terrifying beauty of your current reality. The most dangerous weapon is a reputation that walks into the room before you do, and that's exactly what you've become. Your reputation, your name, carries a weight that no smear campaign, no whispered lie, no cheap trick can dilute. They tried to stain it, to bury it, to make sure no one ever took it seriously. But instead, every attack only amplified it. Every attempt to silence your name only carved it deeper into the walls of rooms you've never entered. That's why your enemies are losing their minds, because no matter how hard they try, your name keeps resurfacing like a password they can't override. Let's address the thought in your mind. What if I don't feel that powerful? What if I don't see it yet? Chosen one, the truth doesn't always scream in front of you. It works behind the curtain. Influence is invisible until its effects show. You may not see the rooms, but you will feel the results, the opportunities, the shields, the sudden breaks that appear at just the right time. That's the evidence that your name is moving where your feet haven't. And when you look at the frustration of your enemies, that's the second piece of proof. Their confusion, their bitterness, their inability to explain why you keep rising. That's confirmation enough. Now imagine a storm, chosen one, lightning strikes, winds rage, waves crash. Your enemies are out there, tossed and battered, while you sit safe in a harbor you didn't even know was secured for you. You didn't build the harbor, you didn't call the storm, but your name ensured that safe passage was prepared. That's the level of protection moving for you now. That's the shield they can't crack, no matter how violently they thrash. So let's close with this brutal truth. Your name has become a password in rooms you've never stepped into, and that fact alone is destroying your enemies more than any battle could. Because every time your name is whispered with respect, every time it opens a door they couldn't unlock, it reminds them that they've lost the influence, lost the control, lost the ability to decide your fate. The very thing they thought was powerless, your name, has become the weapon that haunts them. Chosen one, you don't need to beg for access. You don't need to knock on their doors. Your name is already inside, already doing the work, already unlocking the future they swore you'd never touch. And when the full scope of this protection is revealed, it won't just shock your enemies, it will shock you too. Because the greatest power isn't walking into a room, it's knowing the room moves for you before you arrive. Number 3, destroying you means destroying their system. The quickest way to collapse a kingdom is to strike down the one pillar holding it up. Chosen one, that's you. They don't protect you out of charity or sentiment. They protect you because if you fall, the entire framework around you begins to crack. Your existence is woven into something much larger than yourself, and your enemies can't stand that truth. To them, you look like one person, but to those in high places, you're a vital piece of the system they serve. And tampering with you would send shockwaves through everything they're trying to maintain. Now imagine this, a single bolt holding a massive bridge together. Remove that bolt and thousands of lives are at risk. That's why you're untouchable, because breaking you would cause a chain reaction too costly to risk. Your enemies don't see this because they think in small terms. They believe hurting you would only silence one voice. But those in higher places know better. They know your fall would collapse the balance that keeps even their own agendas standing. What terrifies them most is not your power alone, but the consequences of taking it from you. That's why, no matter how much your enemies try, their hands are slapped away before they get close. The system itself rejects their attempts, because you are not expendable. And here's a fact to settle in your bones. History proves again and again that when the wrong person is targeted, revolutions erupt, governments fall, and entire empires disintegrate overnight. That's why they won't risk you being broken, because breaking you means breaking themselves. You may ask yourself, why would I matter that much? Chosen one, it's because you carry influence that threads into hidden structures. People rely on you more than you realize. Your voice, your actions, your very presence are intertwined with movements bigger than you. Remove you, and the gears jam. The system falters. That's the reality. So let your enemies rage. Let them plot. Because every attempt to destroy you only reminds the powerful why you must be shielded. You are not protected out of kindness. You are protected out of necessity. And that necessity is the very shield your enemies can never penetrate. Number 4, the eyes on you stretch beyond flesh and bone. The enemy's greatest frustration is realizing they're being outwatched by forces they cannot see and cannot bribe. Chosen one, understand this. What shields you isn't limited to human allies sitting in offices or councils. The surveillance protecting you runs deeper, wider, and far more advanced than anything your enemies could imagine. Their eyes are small. Their reach is short. But the eyes guarding you, they operate on levels far beyond their comprehension. Now imagine this for a moment, a thief creeping in the night, convinced no one can see him, only to find out he's being tracked by cameras, satellites, and watchtowers he never noticed. That's your enemies right now. They plot in shadows, but their shadows are lit up under a system of protection that stretches beyond human capacity. Every whisper, every plan, every secret move they think is hidden, already exposed, already intercepted, already countered. Surveillance isn't about watching the obvious. It's about catching what thinks it's unseen. And chosen one, that's exactly why you're still standing. Because what your enemies don't know is that the universe itself has set alarms around you. They can't make a move without triggering consequences. They can't launch an attack without being seen before they even strike. And here's the fact they'll never admit. No empire, no army, no ruler in history has ever truly won against a surveillance system that outwatches them. Their downfall always comes from being seen before they act. You might wonder, why so much attention on me? Because you're a linchpin in a much larger design. If you fall, chaos spreads. If you stand, balance holds. That's why you're guarded not just by human allies, but by invisible networks. Forces that monitor every attempt against you. Forces your enemies can't comprehend, much less escape. So let them stalk, let them scheme, let them believe their moves are secret. Every step they take is already under watch. Every plot they whisper is already known. That's the torment, realizing their enemy isn't just you, but an entire unseen surveillance system guarding your every step. Number 5, you're not just safe, you're a high-value investment. The strongest protection isn't given out of pity, it's given out of profit for the future. Chosen one, hear this clearly. You're not just being shielded because someone feels sorry for you. You're being guarded like a vault, like a priceless asset, because your value doesn't stop at the present moment. Those in high places see what your enemies can't. They see that your future holds weight, influence, and outcomes that affect far more than just your own life. Now imagine this. A bank doesn't hire armed guards to protect loose change. It locks down what will multiply, what carries lasting value, what could change economies. That's you. The system protecting you isn't wasting its resources on someone who doesn't matter. You're surrounded because your future is worth more than your enemy's present, and that reality eats them alive. What enrages your enemies most is not that you're guarded today, but that your tomorrow is already secured. They wonder why doors keep opening for you, why you're never fully cornered, why their attacks only bruise but never break. It's because you are being treated as an investment whose worth increases with time. Breaking you now would cost too much later, so instead, unseen forces ensure you stay intact, positioned, and prepared. You might ask yourself, why would anyone see me as that valuable? Because, chosen one, you carry seeds of change. Your words, your influence, your resilience. It plants futures bigger than your own. Systems see that. Power recognizes it. And so, the shield around you isn't temporary. It's long-term strategy. Now picture this. An oak tree surrounded by fences, not because it's fragile, but because its future shade will cover generations. That's why you're guarded. Your growth protects more lives than you realize. Your rise benefits more agendas than your enemies could ever calculate. And that's why their rage turns to despair. They're realizing they're not fighting a person, they're fighting an investment already too valuable to lose. So let them throw stones, chosen one. You're not just protected, you're insured by the future itself. And when the full value of your life matures, the same enemies who mocked you will choke on the sight of the return you bring. Number 6. Your shield isn't weak. It's a fortress with layers they'll never breach. The dumbest mistake an enemy can make is mistaking a fortress for a tent. Chosen one, that's exactly where your enemies keep failing. They look at you and assume the shield around you is thin, fragile, and easy to pierce. But what they don't realize is that your protection is stacked, multi-layered, reinforced from angles they can't even imagine. That's why their attacks fall flat, again and again. They're fighting against walls within walls, doors behind doors, and defenses they'll never even reach. Now imagine this. A thief approaches a mansion, thinking one locked door is all that stands in his way. He cracks it open, only to find another steel door, then another, then motion sensors, then guards, then cameras. By the time he realizes how deep the defenses go, he's already trapped. That's your enemies. They plan one strike, but every strike only exposes them to the next layer of protection, waiting to crush them. Your enemies don't fail because they're weak. They fail because your shield was built for a war they can't fight. Every layer serves a different purpose. Some guard your physical steps. Others guard your reputation. Some block attacks before they reach you. Others expose the attackers so they collapse under their own schemes. It's a system designed not just to defend, but to exhaust every attempt against you until your enemies have nothing left but frustration. And here's the fact they'll never say out loud. Multi-layered shields are why empires last. Castles weren't protected by just one wall. They had moats, towers, archers, hidden escape routes. You're no different. The protection around you is built with depth, precision, and redundancy. Even if one layer bends, 10 more stand tall. That's why you're still here, chosen one. That's why their best shots feel like pebbles bouncing off stone. You might wonder, how deep does it go? How many layers are there? The answer will always surprise you, because the shield adjusts to the attack. For every plot, there's already a counter. For every ambush, a trap waiting in return. That's why they can't predict your downfall, because you're not shielded by one fragile wall. You're encased in a fortress designed to adapt and survive. So let them keep underestimating you, chosen one. Every failed attempt is just another reminder that your protection runs deeper than their imagination. And when they finally realize it, it won't just break their strategy, it will break their spirit. Number 7. The real horror is when they discover who's backing you. The cruelest blow to an enemy isn't your strength. It's the revelation of who's standing behind you. Chosen one, that's the moment they'll choke on their own arrogance. It's not the fact that you're protected that haunts them. It's the shock of who is providing that protection. They thought your allies were small, powerless, irrelevant. They thought you had no one. But when the curtain lifts and they see the true faces behind your shield, their pride will collapse. Now imagine this. A predator circles what it thinks is easy prey, certain the kill will be quick. But just as it lunges, it freezes, because behind that prey, hidden in the shadows, a lion steps forward. That's your reality. Your enemies thought they were circling someone defenseless, only to discover that the powerhouses standing behind you make their efforts laughable. The real nightmare for your enemies isn't losing to you, it's realizing they were never fighting you alone. That's why their plans keep failing. They thought they were dealing with your strength, your resources, your moves. But the truth is, the allies working on your behalf are bigger than their entire arsenal. Allies with access to places they'll never reach, influence they'll never hold, and strategies they'll never anticipate. You might be asking yourself, why would such powerful forces stand behind me? Because, chosen one, you carry what money can't buy and status can't fake. Integrity, purpose, potential. Power always aligns with what ensures its survival, and your survival ensures balance, progress, and order that even those in high places rely on. They can't afford for you to fall. That's why their watchful eyes stay fixed on your enemies, ready to crush any hand that reaches too close. Here's the brutal irony. Your enemies once boasted about their connections, their networks, their supposed allies. But when the truth is revealed, they'll see that your allies outrank theirs 1,000 times over. The people or systems they thought they had in their pocket will be the very ones dismantling their attacks and securing your rise. So let them laugh now. Let them call you weak, alone, unimportant. Because when they finally discover who's really standing behind you, it won't just silence them, it will shatter them. The shock won't just break their pride, it will break their will to ever challenge you again. Number 8. Your untouchable status is a decree they can't rewrite. The most painful truth for your enemies is realizing your downfall isn't up for negotiation. Chosen one, this isn't about bargains, backroom deals, or temporary favors being pulled for your safety. You've been classified as untouchable, and that label isn't a suggestion, it's a decree. It comes from a place beyond money, beyond politics, beyond every weak influence your enemies try to lean on. And that's what drives them mad. Because no matter how loud they shout, no matter how much they scheme, the answer is always the same. You cannot be touched. Now imagine this. A soldier is told before battle that there is one figure on the field they are forbidden to strike. Doesn't matter if they hate them. Doesn't matter if they think they can win. The command is absolute. Touch them and you pay the price. That's the energy surrounding your life right now. You've been marked off limits, chosen one, not because of favoritism, but because removing you would collapse too much. You are embedded into systems and futures in ways your enemies will never understand. What enrages them most is not that you're protected, it's that your protection is permanent. This isn't something they can outbid, manipulate, or wear down with persistence. Status like yours doesn't expire. It isn't temporary armor. It's written into the very framework of the structures that surround you. And history shows us this. Those who are decreed untouchable, from rulers to revolutionaries, could not be taken down without the very system imploding around them. That's the exact bind your enemies face. You might ask yourself, but why me? Why would such a decree exist for me? Because, chosen one, you are not a random piece on the board. You're a cornerstone. You're the figure whose removal would destabilize more than just your personal life. It would destabilize agendas, balances, and futures that others depend on. That's why the decree is final. So let your enemies foam at the mouth. Let them waste their time plotting. They'll never cross that line, because the moment they do, they're not just fighting you, they're fighting the entire system that classified you as untouchable. And that system doesn't negotiate, it doesn't bend, it doesn't compromise. That's the brutal truth, chosen one. You are untouchable, and your enemies will spend the rest of their lives choking on that reality. Number 9, they're not just losing, they're under watch. The worst defeat isn't losing the battle, it's realizing every move you made was recorded as proof of your failure. Chosen one, that's exactly what's happening to your enemies right now. They aren't just falling short, they're being watched, tracked, and documented in ways that make their downfall inevitable. Every scheme, every trap, every whispered lie they thought was hidden is being logged like evidence in a courtroom. And the cruelest part? They don't even realize the walls are closing in until it's too late. Now imagine this. A thief breaks into a house, convinced no one is home, only to discover later that every step he took, every drawer he opened, every move he made was caught on hidden cameras. That's your enemies right now. They think they're clever, sneaky, untouchable in their plotting, but their every move is being preserved as ammunition for their destruction. They are not free. They're under surveillance, and their own actions are building the case against them. Your enemies aren't just failing, they're digging their own graves with every attempt. That's why their downfall will be so brutal, because it won't be based on rumors, suspicions, or guesses. It will be based on undeniable evidence of who they really are. The same plots they thought would bury you are the receipts that will bury them. You might ask, why does this matter for me? Because, chosen one, it means you don't have to fight every battle head-on. The very forces that protect you are also collecting the proof needed to strip your enemies of their false power. Every lie they spread, recorded, every setup they planned, exposed, every trap they tried to set, documented as their own undoing. And here's the fact they'll never admit. Surveillance has always been the enemy of corruption. History proves it. Tyrants didn't fall because they looked weak. They fell because evidence piled up against them until even their allies couldn't cover it anymore. That's what's happening with your enemies. They're not just losing, they're being cornered by their own track record. So let them whisper, let them scheme, let them try to bury you. Every move they make is another nail in their coffin. They're not just fighting a losing battle, chosen one. They're being watched, and their exposure is guaranteed. Number 10. You're the spark that's splitting their alliances apart. The fastest way to destroy an army is not to fight it head-on, but to make it fight itself. Chosen one, that's exactly what your presence has done. You are the reason powerful people who once moved like a united front, are now snapping at each other's throats. What once looked like unbreakable unity is rotting into suspicion, paranoia, and betrayal. And nothing terrifies your enemies more than realizing it's you who lit that fuse. Now imagine this, a pack of wolves circling prey, snarling in unison, but suddenly they stop looking at the prey and start growling at each other. Teeth bare, eyes shift, and within moments the pack is tearing itself apart. That's your enemies now. The alliances they bragged about, crumbling. The trust they swore would never break, turning to dust. And the most brutal part, they can't trace how it started because the seed of paranoia was planted the moment they came against you. Your enemies aren't just losing power, they're losing each other. The people they thought would always cover their backs are now questioning motives, second-guessing plans, and pointing fingers. That's the beauty of it. While you remain steady, they implode from within. And here's a fact to carve deep. History has shown us that no empire falls because of outside threats alone. It collapses because of betrayal on the inside. Rome didn't burn from invaders first. It crumbled because its leaders turned against each other. You might be asking, why would my enemies turn on one another when their target is me? Because, chosen one, your shield makes you untouchable, and that frustrates them. When every attack fails, when every plot backfires, suspicion grows. Someone must have leaked information. Someone must be protecting you. And in their paranoia, they start accusing each other. That's how alliances snap, not from your strike, but from their own mistrust. So let them keep plotting in circles. The longer they try, the more their so-called unity fractures. They'll never realize until it's too late that their downfall didn't come from your hand, it came from their own. And that's the cruelest justice of all, watching their empire collapse, not because you attacked, but because they couldn't stop attacking each other. Number 11. Their schemes collapse before they leave the table. The cruelest defeat is when your enemy's blade snaps before it ever leaves the sheath. Chosen one, that's the agony your enemies live with every day. Their plans against you aren't just failing, they're being dismantled before they even see daylight. That's what drains them. Not that you survived their blows, but that most of their blows never even made it to you. The universe rewrites their blueprints before the ink dries, leaving them staring at scraps of strategy that turn to dust in their hands. Now imagine this. A general draws up battle plans all night, convinced victory is guaranteed. But at dawn, every page of his strategy has already been altered, every troop position reversed, every weapon sabotaged. By the time the first horn sounds, his own army is marching in circles. That's your enemies. They sit in their secret corners, whispering schemes, but by the time they rise to act, the plan is already dead. What terrifies them isn't that you fight back, it's that you don't even have to. Your shield moves before you do. Forces greater than their imagination intercept their plots at the root. Their traps collapse before they're set. Their alliances fracture before they're signed. It's as if the world itself conspires against them while conspiring for you. And here's a fact they'll never admit out loud. History shows us that the greatest power isn't in fighting battles, it's in preventing them. Wars weren't always lost on the battlefield. Many were lost in the planning rooms, where betrayal, leaks, and sudden shifts rewrote entire strategies. That's exactly what's happening with your enemies. Their downfall begins long before they face you. You might ask, why would their plans collapse before reaching me? Because, chosen one, you've been positioned in a way that makes you too vital, too protected, too connected for attacks to be allowed through. To strike you would mean destabilizing far more than they realize. So the system itself erases their strategies before they ever touch you. That's why they're exhausted, bitter, and restless. Every time they scheme, they're confronted with the same outcome. Nothing works, and nothing will, because their plans don't even fail. They vanish. And watching that vanish over and over again is a torment far worse than losing a battle. It's losing the fight before it even begins. Number 12, you're being placed, not just preserved. The true mark of power isn't survival. It's being moved into position while your enemies watch helplessly. Chosen one, understand this clearly. You're not just being protected like a fragile object locked away in a glass case. You're being positioned like a chess piece, shifted into places where influence multiplies and opportunities collide in your favor. Protection alone would only shield you. Positioning makes you unstoppable. Now imagine this, a king on a chessboard surrounded by threats. A shield could hold back attacks for a while, but what changes the entire game is when the queen is moved into place. Suddenly, the same enemies who thought they had you cornered are staring at a checkmate they never saw coming. That's you. Every move around you is strategic. Every redirection of energy, every closed door, every unexpected shift in circumstances isn't random. It's allies maneuvering you into the exact place where your power expands. What unsettles your enemies most isn't that you're safe. It's that you keep advancing without effort. They expect protection to mean stagnation, as if you'll be frozen in place, shielded, but still. But instead, they watch you climb. They watch opportunities bend toward you. They watch doors swing open that even their money, influence, or schemes couldn't unlock. And that eats them alive, because it proves you're not just untouchable. You're being prepared for something larger. You might be asking, why position me? Why not just protect me? Because, chosen one, safety is temporary, but position is permanent. Allies don't waste their strength keeping someone in place. They invest it in moving you forward. And here's a fact to carve deep. History shows us that the most powerful figures weren't merely survivors. They were placed, guided, and elevated into roles that shaped eras. You are no different. Picture this. A seed isn't protected by soil just to sit in darkness forever. It's placed there, nurtured, aligned with sunlight and water, until it bursts upward, breaking through. That's what's happening with you. You're not buried. You're planted. You're not hidden. You're being aligned. And when you rise, it won't just be survival on display. It will be strategy fulfilled. That's why your enemies despair. They thought their job was to destroy you, but instead they're being forced to witness your positioning. And the hardest truth for them to accept, this positioning can't be undone. You're being moved like a piece they'll never control, into a destiny they'll never touch. Number 13. What they truly fear is what you're about to unleash. The greatest fear of your enemies isn't your fall, it's your rise, because your rise releases a force they can't contain. Chosen one, understand this. The real terror in their hearts isn't about what you might lose, it's about what you might unlock. They know the energy within you isn't ordinary, it's catalytic. It doesn't just lift you, it disrupts everything tied to those who stand against you. Your power isn't contained, it radiates outward, rewiring the systems around you in ways they can't predict or control. Now imagine this, a dam holding back millions of gallons of water. For years, your enemies have hoped cracks would appear, praying the pressure would finally break you. But instead, the dam holds, and the moment the gates are opened, the flood doesn't just free the river, it wipes out every obstacle downstream. That's you. You're not just surviving, you're building pressure, and when you release, it won't be a ripple. It will be a flood that drowns every scheme and leaves your enemies gasping for air. What unsettles them most is not your weakness, it's your potential. They see glimpses of what happens when you step fully into who you are. They see the way your presence alone shifts conversations, disrupts plans, and exposes lies. They don't fear your silence. They fear your voice. They don't fear your pause. They fear your momentum. Because they know once unleashed, your power doesn't stop at you. It spreads, igniting others, shifting dynamics, overturning systems that once seemed unshakable. You might be asking, but why would my rise shake them so badly? Because, chosen one, they've built their stability on the assumption that you'd remain small, quiet, contained. But your rise destroys that illusion. It forces people to choose sides. It forces masks to fall. It forces weak alliances to crumble under the weight of your influence. Your power isn't just about survival, it's about transformation. And transformation terrifies those who cling to control. Picture this, a match doesn't fear being struck. It fears what happens once fire catches. That's what you are, chosen one. A spark, yes, but a spark capable of setting entire structures ablaze. And the truth your enemies can't escape is this. They're not scared of losing to you in the present. They're scared of what your unleashed future means for everything they're desperately trying to protect. That's why they whisper your name in fear, why they scramble in chaos, why they lash out in desperation, because they know what you carry is not just personal, it's explosive. And when you finally release it, the shock won't just shatter them, it will change everything. Number 14, they act like they owe you, even when they don't. True loyalty isn't bought, it's chosen, and that's what drives your enemies insane. Chosen one, here's the truth. The forces shielding you don't owe you a thing. They're not bound by debts, contracts, or bargains. They move for you because they choose to, and that choice shakes your enemies to their core. Because in their world, everything is transactional. Money buys loyalty, favors secure alliances, fear keeps people in line. But your allies? They move as though your survival is their personal mission, even though they could walk away at any time. That's what makes your protection unshakable. Now imagine this, a soldier standing guard, not because he's paid, but because he believes in the one he's guarding. That's power money can't buy. That's the kind of shield you carry. Your enemies can't comprehend it, because they've built their lives on manipulation and coercion. They can't process why anyone would fight for you without an invoice attached. And that's why they're losing their grip, because your protection doesn't run on the currency they understand. What unsettles them most is not just that you're guarded, it's that your allies are loyal by will, not by force. That kind of allegiance is dangerous. It's unpredictable. It can't be broken with bribes, blackmail, or threats. And that makes you nearly impossible to touch. Every time they try to strike, they're met with resistance they didn't see coming, because your allies aren't motivated by what they can get from you. They're motivated by what they see in you. You might ask, why would anyone stand for me without obligation? Because chosen one, real power recognizes value. They see the force you carry, the potential you hold, and they align with it voluntarily. They don't owe you, but they see you as worth protecting. That's a force stronger than contracts because it's rooted in belief. Picture this, a crowd rushing to hold up a wall, not because they're told to, but because they refuse to let it fall. That's the energy surrounding you. Your shield isn't a transaction, it's a conviction. And conviction, chosen one, is something your enemies will never be able to buy, control, or destroy. That's why your allies move like they owe you everything, because in truth, they see you as everything worth defending. And that truth is the dagger that keeps your enemies bleeding in silence. And chosen one, now you understand the shield surrounding you, the allies moving for you, and the unstoppable rise that your enemies can't block. Every attempt against you is failing, every scheme is backfiring, and every layer of protection is pushing you closer to your destiny. If this message resonated with you, press the like button if you haven't already. And if you're still not part of this family, make sure to press subscribe. Stay with us, because your journey is only beginning, and what's coming next will shock not only your enemies, but even you.